Hi, I am Pratim Ranjan Bose, and you are watching Podcast with Pratim, presented by Iravati Research and Communication Center, or IRCC. In this episode, we will discuss India's Western neighborhood. We will focus on the Middle East scenario, India's geostrategic and geo-economic interests and concerns in the region. We will also briefly discuss Pakistan. To do that, I have a very distinguished guest, former Secretary, Economic Relations in the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of External Affairs, Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty. Welcome to you, sir.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Chakravarty served extensively in the Indian neighborhood from Southeast Asia to Bangladesh, Pakistan, and the Middle East. He is also an author. Sir, Hamas-Israel conflict has led to Israel-Iran conflict. The US is trying to keep the tempers of Israel down, but Iran is enjoying support of Russia and China. Tehran is also trying to capitalize on the opportunity to increase its fan base in the Islamic world. Iran and Pakistan have started talking trade. Whether that happens or not is a different issue, but they are talking trade, increasing it by fivefold, ignoring Shia-Sunni divide and the recent exchange of missiles. Meanwhile, there are reports that Saudi is close to sign a security deal with the US. Should that help reduce tension in Middle East? How do you look at it?
Well, Pratim, thank you for having me. And you have asked me, your question has several points in it. One is, of course, the conflict itself, the Hamas. Now, I don't want to get into the details of the conflict because I think everybody knows why it happened. But what has irked the Iranians and others is the disproportionate response of Israel. Now, I am not surprised by the disproportionate response because that has been their strategy. Now, what Iran is trying to do is Iran didn't want a direct conflict. Iran was using its proxies like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Houthis. There are several and some proxies in Syria also with different names. And hence you saw the Israelis bombing the consulate of the Iranians or a building next to the consulate where the Iranians, generals and the IRGC were sitting to plot against Israel. So Israel did a preemptive thing. And Iran was certain that it had to respond. And I believe there was background messages being given to the US also that, look, we have to respond. But then US told them, can you please moderate your response, etc. Anyway, that's the background. And what happened was that the tit for tat thing took place and then it subsided because of pressure from various quarters. Now, if you remember, in January, I think, Iran and Pakistan also struck each other.
Exactly.
And then they was, as I say, they kissed and made up through their Islamic Brotherhood and other kinds of things. And today you see Raisi went to Islamabad to start off the dialogue, etc. One reason for that is very clear, and that is Iran does not want another front in the sense of the Jaish-e-Adal and other Baluch organizations who are based in Pakistan to attack in Iranian Balochistan. So that is one aspect. Now, there has been a polarization in the region or a kind of a reconfiguration. As you know, the Abraham Accords normalized relations with Israel and a few Arab countries. Now, Saudi Arabia was the next big prize for normalization. But all this happened, and that has, of course, now gone into the freezer. Now, why was the normalization taking place? I think the Arabs were coming out of the historical mindset that unless Palestine is solved, in the sense that unless Palestine state is created and everybody recognizes it, that they would not have relations with Israel. That era, I think, is over because they were getting more worried about Iran. Iran also, as you know, struck oil fields and it was impeding various shipping, etc. So their worry increased because they are neighbors of Iran. And hence they were worried that Iran is becoming a little more, a bigger bully than what they thought it would be. And Iran was under pressure because it didn't want, these guys to allow the Americans and the Israelis to come closer. Not that they have succeeded, but, Americans, the Central Command is based in the Gulf. So I think Iran was, I think, basically responding to the attack on its consulate. So I think they had to take some action. Otherwise, would be a huge loss of face, and everybody would say Iran, Iran dar gaya, that kind of a thing, and Iran would not has not. Now Iran gets some support, of course, from China and Russia in the form of various parts, etc., some technology. China wants to cultivate Iran. It has promised, like it does, a lot of investments. They signed a deal. China even I think got into the act of creating some understanding between Saudi Arabia and Iran. If you remember, they had a meeting with the Chinese, and after that, the diplomatic relations were opened. So everybody is sort of hedging and trying to see what best they can get out of it. Saudi Arabia basically wants a civilian nuclear program, and that cannot happen unless the Americans agree and provide all the facilities. They also want a better deal on the American arms, etc., because they got bogged down in the fight in Yemen, where they have lost a lot of weaponry and they have used up a lot of weaponry. So I think that was another thing. And Americans were using this to tell Saudi Arabia that, look, you normalize with Israel, we will try and create a group which will help you all, and we will help you, with arms, ammunition. Of course, that's always the first thing America does, because it helps them to sell more arms. And then we'll provide you more security against Iran and other actors there. Syria is a troubled region where there is a lot of people. Iraq is a troubled area. A lot of these militant groups, they operate. So I think that was the broad picture, I think. Now, I don't know whether you asked about India starting trade or Pakistan starting trade with India, or not in this question. I think there was
no, but about this, that hearsay about Saudi-US deal.
The Saudi-US deal was being worked out. Basically, Saudi Arabia, as I said, wanted a civilian nuclear program because they are very worried about the Iranian nuclear program. And if Iran goes nuclear, they still probably haven't, but it has developed certain capacities that would perhaps help it to go nuclear, although Iran is an NPT signatory and under sanctions. Iran is not in a very good shape in that sense, because the people are upset, people are worried, economic situation
for too long.
And there is this unnecessary, oppression of women there, which bursts out into certain kind of things. Even the women are, sort of coming out, not obeying the clerical kind of thing. I have a favorite term for Iran. I call it a mullocracy. But it's a mullah, but a bit of a democracy thrown in, because they do have elections. But I think basically it's a Islamic, Islamist state. So they can't get away from those, religious doctrines and dogmas. So I think this is a problem. But the economic situation is worrisome for them. And they can't sell oil openly because of sanctions from. But I think what really happened was that when Trump walked out of the JCPOA, the deal, the nuclear deal, that worried a lot of the Arabs. Although Israel was happy, Israel didn't want that deal because that was a limited deal for 15 years. So after 15 years, Iran would be free to make nuclear weapons or go fully down that road. Anyway, there were a lot of questions about it.
So you are expecting that Saudi-US deal to happen, right?
Well, I think, but
this time I think they are trying it out without Israel. But that would indirectly take Israel.
But they could do that. But the essence, the core of the deal was the normalization of relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. After all, if you give somebody a favor, you want something in return. And Israel was demanding that. And as you know, Israel and the US are extremely close allies for so many reasons.
It is very difficult at this moment for Saudi Arabia to get into any deal where Israel is.
This is a problem. For the moment, I don't think it's going to happen. As I said, it's gone into the freezer for some time. And unless the Hamas thing is sorted out, and there are various options there also, I don't think we will see the Israel-Saudi Arabia normalization immediately, very soon. It will take more time.
So I believe what you are essentially saying and is that there is a lot of intention on the part of stakeholders to bring peace in the region. I mean, that Iran and Saudi shaking hands, or Saudi trying to normalize relationship with Israel. All these are indications that that there are interests, but it may not be that easy given the historical perspective in the region. That essentially, probably that's
Indeed. Some kind of normalization takes place. Channels of communications are kept open, so hence diplomatic relations were renewed. But ultimately, everybody is positioning and hedging to protect its own interest. And Iran wants to play the regional kind of role as a big power, etc., which is not acceptable to the other countries. There is, of course, the religious angle, the Shia-Sunni divide, and the fact that most of these Arab nations and others are allies of the US, and the US is regarded as the number one, shaitan or enemy, as the Iranians call them. So these are some of the factors. So as long as Iran remains under sanctions and is not, given the opportunity or cannot break out of these sanctions, it feels that it must use leverage through proxies and others to keep the region in some sort of turmoil.
Right, sir. So let me take you to the next question. Now, since 2015, I mean, I was just checking details. You know it far better than anyone else. India's diplomatic and economic exchanges increased manifold with in the Middle East. This is most true for UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel. Some of them, like Jordan and Israel, have seen the Indian president going there for the first time. I mean, we later realized that this is exactly the corridor on which IMEC was proposed last year. That would go through the Gulf of Aden. Avoid the Gulf of Aden and take the Gulf of Oman. Now, question is, at this moment, this connecting Europe through Israel, all this looks a little distant dream at this very moment. But how do you see the possibility of UAE and Saudi Arabia part is connected? UAE, though, is a shipping, you are connecting Bombay, taking goods from Bombay to UAE by ship. And then it was supposed to move by rail to Saudi Arabia. So how do you see that happening? And how should it help? How crucial is that for India, considering the issues in the on the other route, Gulf of Aden, where there are pirates. Then you have Djibouti, where Chinese are stationed. Over to you, sir.
Well, let me first say that there has been historical connectivity between the Gulf and India, as we all know, for many, many long years, because, of course, they were under the British, and there's a history of how the South family came to power, etc., under the patronage of the British and the Western. Then oil was discovered and the whole scene changed. Now, Indians have been working there for many years. There are almost 9-10 million Indians. Our trade with Saudi Arabia and UAE and the other Gulf countries has gone up. India imports almost 20% of its energy requirements, fossil fuel, gas, etc., from this region. So as a region, it is very important for our energy security, for our trade, for our economic and other issues. These countries have a lot of sovereign funds which they have created, and they are investing in India. A lot of them are investing in India. So ultimately, the economic economic route has gained prominence because Dubai and Saudi Arabia are important, and Qatar is an important player because of gas, and the other countries as well. So what we are seeing is that they are also looking at our region and saying that, look, if India is progressing well and is today the fifth largest economic power, they are they, they have also come out of that old shell of Islamic Brotherhood and things like that. They are looking at their own interest as well, economic. And when they look at South Asia or the subcontinent,
I mean,
they find it.
Sorry to interrupt. We have seen the Saudi Crown Prince coming to India just after Pulwama, and in the joint statement, he condemned the Pulwama attack.
Absolutely. So they have come out because they are themselves also worried about it. And so they understood that what Pakistan was doing was destabilizing everything. Even their relationship with India. And Pakistan thought that even by continuing with its terrorist activities, it will get support from these countries, without question. That paradigm has broken down, and Pakistan does not get that support because they also understand that what Pakistan was doing was not good and was destabilizing. And they also understood that our economic interests are better pursued with India, which Pakistan has nothing to offer. So that was the basic, policy change that happened. Then, of course, from our side, there was a lot of activity. Prime Minister Modi went to that region. He was the first prime minister going after 34 years. Can you imagine?
Right.
So we can say that, there was a bit of a neglect or, taken for granted attitude in India among policymakers or among governments. So Prime Minister Modi really sort of took a different view of the region and went there. And then, of course, many ministers, presidents have toured the region because we do have a lot invested in that region. They are, I think, they are probably the second or third largest trading partner, the Gulf people, the Gulf countries. And then Jordan is an important player because it is neighbor of Israel. Then we import a lot of phosphates and other things which are very, very important for our fertilizer industry. And fertilizer is so important for our agriculture. So anyway, those are all the things that are there. And that is why there was this renewed effort to reach out to all these countries. And that has paid dividends. One more thing I would say before I conclude on this point is that India has managed its foreign policy in the region remarkably well. And why? You may ask why. Because we have good relations with everybody. There are people who think that if you have good relations with Israel, you can't have good relations with Iran or somebody. But that's not the case with India. India has good relations with Iran. India has good relations with the Arab countries. India has good relations with Israel also. So I think India has played a certain balance, not balancing, but a moderating role there. And India, therefore, has the ability and the capacity to reach out to all these.
Right. So trade and economic relations have been increasing manifold, undoubtedly. Over the last 5 years or so, we have seen number of countries. I think Saudi, Oman, and etc. The Israel. The trade has almost doubled, and insofar as UAE is concerned, it's huge. And today it is a huge export destination. And the first item is mobile phones, smartphones. So it is no more merely from the Indian perspective, it is no more simply an energy import destination. It has gone much beyond that, and that is exactly what Saudi and UAE are also trying. They are developing themselves no more as oil sellers. So that being so, how do see the this is about the economic part, and India is taking a lot of attention to that. I just have a question that how do you see what will be the role of Middle East and how do you see it evolving over the next 5 years? And what would be the role of Middle East in fulfilling India's global ambitions? So we all know India is aiming for a seat in UN Security Council and all those things. India has a global ambition and it wants to achieve it fast. So how do you see that?
Well, that's why the region has been, what shall I say, given special focus by the current government. And because all the reasons that you just mentioned are all part of that growing connectivity, etc., are all part of the overall plan to embrace the region because it is important for us. Our people work there. We get 40% of our remittance from there, external remittance, foreign exchange remittance. So these are very important things for the Indian economy. And hence, we have put extra emphasis on developing ties with these countries. These countries, as I mentioned, have also come out of that old mindset. And they also realize that their dependence on oil, once the world is now moving away from oil, that is for sure. Climate change and other reasons, and people are moving into renewables. They do realize that depending on oil cannot be a very long-term strategy. So they have to develop industries, they have to develop a base, or they have to collaborate with other large economies to create industries, etc., and to ensure their future, which could be less oil-based, because that dependency on oil, they are also concerned. I mean, they also believe that this cannot last forever, and hence the policymakers in these countries have expanded. They've gone into trade, they've gone into all kinds of things, giving facilities for foreign companies to come and work out of Dubai. Dubai is full of foreign companies. They are working there because they find it easy, there's less tax, and then Dubai functions mainly as an entrepot, so almost like Singapore, actually, in many ways. Our trade with Dubai is huge. I think almost $100 billion. But I don't think that $100 billion is only meant for Dubai.
No.
I think it goes on from Dubai to various other countries, including Pakistan,
Exactly.
of which I have personal experience when I was the Consul General in Karachi. Pakistani businessmen would buy things from India and route it via Dubai, and so there is a trade. So to say that trade has stopped between India and Pakistan is not correct. It goes on through Dubai, and so that is one thing that Dubai also serves a purpose, because the businessmen who have been trading with Pakistan, they say, okay. I mean, of course, for Pakistan, they pay more because it is coming via Dubai. And that is one of the arguments that Pakistani businessmen always will tell you, that we have to pay more for Indian goods because it comes from Dubai, cheaper to do it direct.
Yes. So that's the problem, that trade is happening. They are definitely buying Indian goods, but at a higher cost. And that is limiting the trading volume.
Sure.
And it is it affects particularly the food and those segments which are, considering that Bangladesh is witnessing spiraling inflation. Recently, business leaders in Karachi have asked the Prime Minister to start trade negotiations with India, and they also wanted the Prime Minister to shake hands with Imran Khan. Now that's a different issue. So what is your expectation? There has been some hearsay that was going on for last 1 year, that Pakistan will resume direct trade after the election. Do you see any such possibility?
Well, let me go back a little to one of your points that you had raised about the IMEC, the corridor that India Middle East corridor, etc. Then we also had the I2U2 configuration. I2 means India, Israel, and U2 was USA and UAE. So these were some plans on the table, and as we have discussed that now, it might be difficult to pursue it. But the point is that because Pakistan is a state in denial, it will not allow India to trade through it to Afghanistan a little bit, but with a lot of restrictions, and it won't allow trade to go through to the Central Asian states. So there were policymakers had been thinking about this, how to manage this situation, because this sort of curtails some of the options that that India has. So we invested in Chabahar, for example, that was the north-south corridor. So we started exploring different routes to reach the countries that we were trading with, and those countries also wanted to trade with us. Afghanistan is one, the Central Asian states is one. So that's the Chabahar corridor, north-south corridor. Then, of course, came the point about how on the west, towards the west, more towards the west. So since our connectivity with the UAE was good, and then Saudi Arabia had gone into a major program of railway connectivity, and hence that thought came if UAE could function as the hub, and then from there it could go to many, many places like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and up to Israel, because the land connectivity is there. And even up north towards other countries, provided the situation stabilizes, like Lebanon. But Lebanon and Syria, of course, are almost in a state of chaos and war and not stable. And then maybe via Turkey and other countries in that region, Central Asian region, to Europe and other places. So that was the plan, the IMEC plan. Now, of course, it has been impeded by this conflict, and we'll have to wait till the conflict is over, and then we can proceed further.
UAE has started discussions for the UAE leg, UAE-India leg. But that is easier side of the story. It's shipping connectivity that is happening. But about Pakistan, do you expect Pakistan to resume trade after the election is over?
Yes, yes, I forgot about that. So what happened is that, you see, as I said, there has been pressure among the business community in Pakistan. And I know because I served in Karachi for some time, that they do want trade with India. They see that it's as profitable. They see it as but the Pakistan establishment's mindset from the very beginning is somehow restrict relations with India because of various issues they keep raising about Kashmir and others. And the army, the Pakistan army, which is the main arbiter of power in Pakistan, sees its future in terms of continuing hostility with India.
It keeps investing in disruptions.
No. There are other very strategic factors. Pakistan's role as a proxy for China. If India and Pakistan became friends, then the army's role is cut down. Because the army now basically has told several generations of Pakistanis, and many believe in it, that they are the ultimate defenders of Pakistan, because India has never accepted Pakistan, and India will sometime or the other, want Pakistan back into its fold as a part of India. So this is the kind of narrative they have built, and so hence the army has to, as a defender of the state, and of course the ideology of Pakistan, which is Islam, that it has to get a pivotal role in the power structure in Pakistan. That's the basic thing. And that will be eroded if India and Pakistan become friends, or all the relations are normalized. Pakistan will also lose the proxy leverage it has with China, because China uses Pakistan as a proxy against India. So these are some of the factors that the Pakistan army, which controls the levers of power, is reluctant to open up the window. Although pressure is increasing and the economy is sort of spiraling downwards, people are unhappy, and so I don't know how long they will continue with this closed door policy, because ultimately they will also have to listen to the public opinion. And you go to YouTube and you see the Pakistani YouTubers. There is a lot of building up for some kind of normalization with India.
This is something very, very new. I mean, maybe because of the explosion of technology, but for last 1 or 2 years, I'm finding the Pakistani YouTubers doing a great job. They are voicing the opinion that we should put priority to trade. So that is
public opinion. if you look at these videos, it's very obvious that public feels that this is this is a stalemate. Nothing is happening. We are suffering economically. India is progressing so much. You look at these people. Of course, they have a simplistic view of everything, but they do see that India is progressing. There are people who come to India. There are still people who travel to India, and the YouTubers interview them, and it's amazing. All these people who come to India, Pakistanis, they go back and tell stories. We were well received. We found India has progressed so much,
There were too
etc.
many episodes on UPI.
Yes. So I think those kind of things are coming into public domain. But so the pressure in Pakistan from public is building up. And hence, now that you have a civilian government, or at least the civilian government, then the businessmen have started again, sort of building up the pressure, saying, look, it's time now that we open up. Our economy is bad. We will benefit economically if you open up trade with India.
Right.
I don't know how far the army, but the army could. It is under pressure also to release the kind of pressure, the bondages that it has.
I think Imran brought a very distinctive change on that perspective, isn't it? For the first time, there has been army is under pressure somewhere.
Well, yes, because of how they dealt with Imran. So, because Imran had the popularity, because even the current election you saw, they were, of course, banned as a party, couldn't fight as a party, but their people got the maximum number of seats they won as individuals and independents. So that message has also gone home to the army, saying that despite all the manipulation, sorry, they could not hold back Imran's party from winning seats in the parliament. So, and hence their control over the politics of Pakistan has come under pressure and has been diluted.
Right. We are going to end this discussion, but the last question: your book is now on the stand, and it's on Bangladesh.
Oh yes.
It's on Bangladesh. So, two questions: why Bangladesh, and when are you going to write on? You have asked. You are one of the diplomats who have worked so extensively in this region. So I found you have worked in almost every country on either side of India. So when are you writing on, say, MiddleEast and this side? Over to you.
Well, I was busy doing my Bangladesh book, which came out about 2 months ago. Now, why Bangladesh, you asked? One is that my childhood memories contained a lot of stories about our family, which is originally from that part of Bengal. What is Bengal? East Bengal. Yeah. And then, of course, partition came, etc. And our family had to move out, etc. And but we came over a little before partition. Some of them, and then some came later, and settled in Kolkata. That's because that's where my father and others, they were all studying at that time, and they found jobs, etc. So, and it was felt that there was no future for us in East Pakistan. And I think that was a correct decision. So, and some Bangladeshis who asked me, "Sir, you are one of us." I said, "Yeah, I am originally from here, but I am now, I am now in India, and if my family hadn't moved out of Bangladesh, I wouldn't come back here as India's High Commissioner." So anyway, but then that was one of the reasons. And second reason is that I spent almost 6 years or more in Bangladesh, in 2 states, as Deputy High Commissioner and High Commissioner. And I saw the country closely in terms of its politics, its economy. And I went through I saw 2 elections there with the, parties, power changing hands. So I think that interested me. Then I also felt that Bangladesh's economic trajectory was very good. And today, if you read my book, there is a chapter on economic ties where I have compared where Bangladesh is today and where Pakistan is today. And Bangladesh is way ahead in terms of economic achievements. Those were the factors that led me to concentrate on Bangladesh in terms of writing a book, I mean. And then I felt that Bangladesh being, a very friendly neighbor and its strategic situation was important for us. So I concentrated on Bangladesh. Bangladesh is our largest trading partner in this region.
It's
And we
also
have a
the
lot
fifth
of...
or sixth largest trading partner.
Absolutely. And we have an excellent, people-to-people contacts. Millions of Bangladeshis visit India. And then the economic content of our relationship has been growing. There is a lot of interdependency also in Bangladesh. And it's important. There's so many states of India that have borders with Bangladesh. And of course, we have those usual problems, water, border, etc. But above all, we have a very interesting, convergence of interest with Bangladesh in terms of economic growth, etc., stability. So I think those were the reasons that made me concentrate. And Bangladesh itself has gone through various ups and downs. After the assassination of the founder, Bangabandhu Mujibur Rahman, Bangladesh went through a lot of turmoil. And then it took a lot of time to settle down with two dictatorships. Then there was a democracy movement, which finally gave way to elections, etc., etc. So I think Bangladesh has also had a very interesting political journey, and the economic aspect they have really done well, and it was a story needed to be told by somebody who has been there and somebody who has worked for this relationship.
Right. Some growth.
And yes, you were asking whether
what essentially happened, I think, with Bangladesh over the last 15, 20 years is that finally growth has become the cornerstone of discussion. So economics have taken the front seat, and that is keeping the political side a little away. Politics is unavoidable, but it is getting more dictated by economic interests. That is a very, very good situation. So yes, you're saying what is the next?
You're right, Pratim, that the economic aspect of the relationship is now the priority. There are, of course, problems everywhere. We have the Teesta, sharing of the Teesta waters, other river waters, etc., which is something we keep discussing.
We have the biggest problem of the history of the partition. So
absolutely, that legacy has not left.
We cannot do away with it overnight.
I would make a provocative statement here, saying that there are people in Bangladesh who still feel that they are Muslim Leaguers. There are that kind of mentality exists, and India is the other. India is hostile sometimes. India is a big brother. India wants to gobble up Bangladesh. India wants to. That kind of narrative exists actually. Some sections, but that's not the majority.
Okay.
But it does exist. And you were asking whether I would be writing another book, and which would be, and you were suggesting that I should look at the Middle East or the West Asia, as we call it. Yes, I've been thinking about that. So, it takes a bit of time to gather your thoughts and how to organize the book, etc. That is for anybody who attempts to write. And so, yes, that thought is there in my head.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for